hey, this is patience. Maybe it takes 3 months, 6 months, a year to find that deal, but just have patience, continue to develop it, right? And also understand why you're in this, right? If you're in it just to, I want to make a quick buck and this is something I want to just do for a short period of time, that is not the right place to be, right?
Welcome to the Cash Flow Chronicles. I'm your host, Jonny and the founder of Catani Capital Group. For the last 2 years, I've been studying alternative assets and now help solve the problem of creating passive cash flow for creators, influencers, and busy professionals by bringing you 5 episodes a week of easy to understand education in the world of passive investing. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Cash Flow Chronicles. I'm your host, Jonny, and I'm joined today by Jens Nielsen. Jens immigrated from Denmark in 1996, and after a successful career in IT, he followed his passion for real estate and coaching and is now a full-time real estate investor and certified high-performance coach. He is currently a direct owner or general partner in over 2,000 apartment units around the country, valued at over $200 million. As a certified high-performance coach, Jens has coached over 100 clients to a higher level of success in their business and personal lives through strategy, accountability, and personal growth. He uses the skills he developed during his IT career and provides value to his real estate team through a focus on underwriting, systems, capital raising, and asset management. Jens, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jonathan. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, we're grateful to have you and definitely looking forward to hearing your story. So let's get into it. Give us kind of your backstory. Obviously immigrated here. I'm curious where you discovered real estate. So take us all the way back.
Yeah. As people, if they're watching the video, they can see I'm a little bit older than maybe you are, but I've been here in this country for 27 years, came from Denmark, and did the thing you're supposed to, right? Get an education, get a job, save in your 401k. And I loved it, right? I mean, it was a great opportunity to come here. It's a big country, so many things to do, the nature, the job, the travel. I started out on the East Coast, but migrated west, ended up in New Mexico in the early 2000s, and then moved actually to Colorado for 8 years, and kind of in my mid, IT job, making good money, had a good lifestyle. So I wasn't really in pain from that standpoint. But in my mid 40s, I realized, wow, I have another, 20, 25 years of work left. Do I really want to work for somebody else? Do I want to have, younger people come in and kind of, challenge my position and everything else? I just didn't really like that prospect. And I looked around to see, what's out there, what can I do? And everything just looked like another job until I was like, wow, real estate actually, it does not have to be. If some people is a job, me included, and you, but for other people, it doesn't have to be a job. You can start creating that passive income. You can start creating some freedom. And that's what really attracted to me. So that was like in 2015, 2016, I got kind of exposed to it by podcasts and books, and took action very quickly, bought my first properties, 4 plexes in Albuquerque in 2016. Dirt cheap. Wish I'd bought more then, but that was kind of the start that I had, right? And then we can get into where it went from there.
That's awesome. I love it, and I love that you took action right away. Obviously, and you didn't start passively too. A lot of people start passively and then kind of work their way. You jumped right to the active side. So yeah, kind of touch on that. How quickly did you scale up from those 4 plexes?
Yeah. And first of all, in, 6-7 years ago, there wasn't as many people out there syndicating. So finding syndicators wasn't as easy as it is today. So I didn't really know. I was like, I thought you're supposed to buy your own property. That was the approach. So in the first year, we actually bought a couple of 4 plexes, and then we got this 11 unit deal that my broker is like, yeah, this is a piece of junk, but you can get it at a really good price and then put some money into it. And I think it would be a good deal. It's like, okay. So I bought like 19 units. We bought 19 units in the first 7-8 months or something like that. Right. And then I was kind of out of money. I was like, oh, what do I do now? Then I realized I didn't want to just wait and save and try to buy something else, my own account. I was like, let's figure out how to partner with people to do something bigger, because I realized there was some, the economy of scale was really there in the business.
That's awesome. I love it. So how quickly did you identify kind of your skill sets, right? We talked you underwriting kind of systems. Well, you kind of do it all, but you know, a lot of people, right? It takes them a sec to kind of figure it out. So how did you hone in and kind of help people, give us your opinion on what's a good way to figure out within acquisitions where they could figure out what their best skill set is?
Yeah, and I tell that to everybody that I work with as a client. It's like, don't check your skills at the door when you move into a new business, right? If you are, a nerdy IT guy like me that likes data and likes spreadsheets, use that. And I remember, early on, I would like look at everything that was all the property that were listed, and I would list every one of them, and I would try to calculate a cap rate and the cash on cash returns on all of them to figure out which ones were the best ones, right? So I was just very early on into the analysis of it. So that suited me, systems, project management, and all these things. Where other people, if you are more of a salesperson, or if you are more of an outgoing type, well, maybe you'll be much better at connecting with brokers or investors or boots on the ground. If you're in construction already, maybe you're boots on the ground. So really just look at, what are you ready to do for work? Are you good at it, and do you enjoy it? Apply those skills to real estate, because there's nothing new under the sun. It's just systems and people and processes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. That's really, really great insight. Really just kind of honing in on your unique ability, as a lot of people like to call it. So obviously now you've scaled exponentially from 19 units up over 2,000 very quickly, right? I mean, gosh, what's that, 7 years? So very, very quickly. What's your portfolio look like now? Where are you guys? Are you scattered around, still mostly here in the West? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah, and it was a little bit at hockey stick, right? It was kind of slow, and then it went up, right? We did our first syndications in 2019, and that was like 3 deals, and then 2020 happened and all that. So initially, I was kind of bouncing around a little bit, partnering with a few different groups. We did a deal in Phoenix, we did a deal in Atlanta, which we've since sold for great profit. But I luckily ran into my now partner in 2019, and he happens to be situated up in upstate, or actually Western Pennsylvania. And, that's very far away from where we live, right? I'm here in New Mexico, so it's far away. But I don't really care, because I'm not the boots on the ground. I'm not the guy out there looking at the properties every single day. So we were able to work together on his strength of broker relations, property management, boots on the ground, and my strength of analyzing deals and all the systems and processes. So we've been buying properties in Western Pennsylvania, Erie, Pennsylvania, in Cleveland, Ohio, and surrounding cities there, down in Oklahoma, Tulsa, and Stillwater. And then I still have some stuff down in Albuquerque. So it's almost like kind of that Midwest, upper Midwest down to kind of the Southwest is the path of where our properties are now. And we found that you need to reach a certain level of scale before it makes sense in a certain area, because then you can build out your team, your property management, and everything else. And that's what I've really been focusing on in some of these markets.
That's awesome. So you're just really focusing on top markets. If it's good market, if you like the economics, you guys get in there. So obviously you're pretty much spread, other side of the country from your partner. And you focus kind of on the asset management. What does that look like for you on the property management side, getting boots on the ground in these different markets as you are spread out? How has that been for you?
Yes, again, we're concentrated on Western Pennsylvania and then Cleveland, Ohio, right? Those are within an hour and a half drive. So basically, we've built out our own property management company through my partner, right? So he had one, so he's grown that. So it's all in-house. All property management is in-house. We actually just expanded to upstate New York, but that's just a little bit the other direction. But all our own management, we don't really want to go out and have other people manage our properties, because then we have control over it. We the buck stops here, if you will, right? So all those things have really worked out well. So I really I don't focus on the property management, because that's a different skill set. I focus on the asset management, which is basically implementing the business plan. Okay, we're going to renovate 50% of the units. let's get the contractors in there. Let's manage the contractor. Let's go through that process. Let's look at the financials. Are we meeting our projections? If not, how can we control and improve those things, right? So that's a lot of looking at data. It's holding people accountable, property, what do you call it? Project management plans and so forth.
Okay. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And do you send him, like, although you're the asset management, is he kind of going and looking over, making sure the contracts are doing what they're supposed to, or do you find that you enjoy going out and visiting the properties and doing that as well?
I'll do a trip up there maybe every quarter and so forth, but basically, and he's, we're talking about hundreds of units, so he's, he has his team on the boots on the ground, his property management, his regionals, his locals that go there, right, and report back to him, and then we use those systems, right? So, we're in the middle of acquiring a new deal. Yeah, of course, there's a lot of initial due diligence and stuff like that. But once the property closes, we then, hand it over to more of general contractors and that team, and kind of manage them and keep an eye on what they're doing.
Do you plan to bring kind of the construction side of things in-house at all and kind of vertically integrate that as well?
Well, it kind of almost is to some degree. So his wife actually manages a lot of that. So he has contractors that he hires. They're not employees, but hires those contractors. And he's found an amazing group. I mean, we literally renovated 180 units in little over like 14 months or something like that.
Wow.
Finishing last fall. And now we're taking on some other projects. So we have a great team. For a lot of challenging time initially, but now we've gotten through it and we really know how to run this. So we've built out something amazing because there's enough work, right? Once you're willing to spend millions of dollars in all this work, you can tend to attract and retain people. So that has helped
absolutely.
A lot too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very symbiotic, right? General contractors need to get paid as well. And obviously a lot of times you hear on our side kind of the complaint you hear that it can be challenging to find general contractors. But when you talk to general contractors, a lot of times they're not getting paid on time or, having to come track that down. So it's very important from our end to pay them as well and be good to them, because that's how you're going to, like you said, build that good team. And obviously you've been able to do that. So that's awesome. And you just mentioned that you're working on a new acquisition. What has that been like in the current kind of economic turmoil that we're going through and finding deals and all that?
Yeah, it definitely has changed, right? I mean, a year or two ago, it would be hard money day one and no contingencies and everything else. Now it took us, we literally put our first LOIs in on this property in the middle of December last year. And there was a lot of back and forth and we weren't really budging on our price, so we took a much harder line as a buyer than we may have had in the past because we knew the competition wasn't quite there. And we didn't go hard day one, right? There was due diligence period and so forth. So I think, we got an excellent price on it. Of course, our debt is more expensive, but because we've done so many deals, we were able to get some favorable, this is bank loan because it's a it's a rehab project. So we're going to stay in a bank with some bank debt for a while. It's just, it has its own risk with recourse and so forth. But on the flip side, it's easier to get into, it's easier to get out of than maybe an emergency or, God forbid, some sort of floating rate bridge debt, right? So I mean, it's the time will tell. We're going to start raising money here soon, so time will tell how that's going to go. Right, that could be the other challenge that we may have, but and we've bought stuff from this seller before, so we know what we're getting ourselves into. But it's certainly I think the debt is our most expensive thing that we're dealing with right now, like most other people are.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are kind of some of the keys there with the debt, right? You mentioned you've, done plenty of deals. Obviously the track record helps a lot, but when you go into those conversations with lenders, what does that look like? What do they see on their end? Obviously they're getting more and more conservative, especially as, banks start to fail left and right. have you had to come back to them? Are they changing things up, or has it been a pretty smooth process?
Yeah, this is where I think local banks are incredibly valuable because they have a lot of discretion in how they underwrite, how they allocate funds, right? If they're in the market, if they know who you are. This was not, I think we haven't done it along with this bank before, but at least they're local. They can go and see all the other properties we have and so forth. So we can build trust. And I think that personal touch for sure is really important, right? So they end up giving some pretty favorable, both money to buy it and money to rehab and so forth. So really worked out. I was a little bit nervous and things because we started this process in January, February, March timeframe. But they're still, we got the final appraisal in, and they're still committed to the same term. So that's really good for us, right? I mean, there are some deals we did last year. We got Bridstead on there, and interest rate would just like change week over week. And like, I don't know, is this going to be 6% or 9%? We don't know, right? So that was kind of sketchy going through that process. But yeah, so this has worked out great. I wouldn't say, if you're an unproven investor and you try to go to a new market, the local banks may not be so excited about lending you money.
Yeah, definitely. Presents some challenges to newcomers into the industry. I was just having this conversation yesterday with a friend in the industry as well. Obviously with the current environment. And so my primary focus is capital raising. So I want to touch on that from you. You mentioned that's kind of coming up for this new deal. It's been a few months, right, since you guys have had to raise capital. You started this in December. What has the conversation been like with investors to kind of keep you guys top of mind, let them know you're still working on things? What does that process look for you guys to keep your investors interested and let them know, things are coming?
Yeah, we actually did do a small raise. We did a deal in upstate New York that was just kind of agency debt, long-term buy and hold and so forth, right? And it went okay. I think, what do you tell investors right now? Like, everybody's like, oh, the economy's collapsing or whatever fear they may have, right? But on the flip side, the conversation is all, about where would you rather have your money, in hard assets that over time will appreciate, and you can, if the investor, the sponsors, what are tax benefits, generational wealth, protection against inflation, cash flow. So it's really start changing people's thinking about what are they doing. It's not like, oh, we're going to double your money in 2 years. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen anymore, right? For a while. So it's just more like, this is a long-term strategy for preserving your wealth. And if you look at the long term, most people that have been in real estate and had patience have done incredibly well. We've probably done ourselves a disservice by having really good deals that exited in 2 years or 3 years with a 3x, right? It's like, I used to get that. Well, yeah, that was good times, but not going to happen now. But, so I mean, we stay on top of newsletters, we're on podcasts. We just communicate with our investors, keep them updated about what's going on, the good and the bad, and just stay kind of on top of mind, right? I'm very organic in the way I raise money. So it's, I get money through just sending out blasts of emails, but also money through just personal relationship texts, calls, and so forth, right? And it seems to work. So still doing okay. We'll see. Call me in a month and we can see where we're at on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a unique time, right? It flipped very quickly in terms of, like you said, kind of that 2-3 year, 2.5, 3x kind of spoiled investors, right? And then it seems like overnight it's now, hey, this is probably going to be all 5 years or 7 years of this whole period. And oh, by the way, it's, not a 2.5x multiplier and a 24% IRR, right? And that can be very challenging because, it's fun to get those on both sides, so certainly a unique challenge when talking to investors. But you made a very good point in saying, well, banks are not the best place to preserve your wealth right now. right? Hard assets. And it always will be that way. Real estate is obviously proven over the last, hundreds of years. So I love that point. So let's kind of flip here. You're also a coach as well. And like I said a little bit ago, it can be challenging to be new in the industry right now. A couple of years ago, you could be brand new and 2x investors' money, and you probably weren't really implementing any kind of strategy. It just was kind of market dynamics and everything in your favor. So what is that conversation like with new people? Are they, very intimidated? Or are you finding that it's still very encouraging and you're able to help people out?
Yeah, I mean, I think I monitor some of the various bigger pockets, forums, and other stuff, and definitely the chatter has died down from just a few years ago, right? Much fewer people talking about it and so forth. And from the clients that I'm working with, I mean, people that are in the game are doing well because they understand it, they see it. For newer people, it's a little bit harder, but I also say, hey, nobody's going to get rich overnight, right? If you have the staying power, a lot of people is going to flush out, right? It's not going to work. They have to, maintain a W-2 job and stuff. If you have the staying power and you develop your relationships with the investors, with the brokers, you refine your underwriting skills, you are in a good position to take advantage of things. Like maybe interest rates will start dropping, maybe sellers become more realistic in their prices, whatever it is, right? So just that, hey, this is patience. Maybe it takes 3 months, 6 months, a year to find that deal, but just have patience, continue to develop it, right? And also understand why you're in this, right? If you're in it just to, I want to make a quick buck and this is something I want to just do for a short period of time, that is not the right place to be, right? This is a long-term business that you need to be committed to. And I think, again, if you started 3 or 4 years ago, you may have been spoiled, but that's a different market now. It still can be incredibly valuable. And I think the most, committed, patient, diligent people are going to still find success in it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And so one thing I talk pretty much to death about on this podcast is coaching, mentoring. I've got a podcast coach. I've got a real estate mentor, and I'm working on getting a business coach specifically just for the business side of things. I want to hear from you, right? Obviously, you're also on board with that as well, but for those who think they can go out and do it themselves, what do you kind of tell those people in terms of helping them understand the importance of coaching and mentoring and why it's important to have all of that?
I used my own example, right? I started out and I didn't really know any better. I thought, I was supposed to buy your own property and kind of run it by yourself, right? That was the mindset I had. And I was surrounded by a few people that had the same mindset, but I realized there had to be something bigger. I just didn't know how do I get to that bigger level, right? And that's where I think coaching and mentorship serves the idea of, people, you can open your mind for bigger possibilities by having a coach, a mentor that's been there before, or that can start really digging into, those ideas that you have, but you maybe haven't expressed, right? So I've done mentorship, and most people, let me step back. Most people think, they need to learn the business. Yes, we need to learn the business, but once we've learned the business, that's not what's holding us back. It's our courage, it's our vision, it's our productivity, it's our influence. So as a high performance coach, we focus on those things, because if you don't have the courage to talk to investors or brokers, you're not going to get anywhere. If you don't have the productivity to manage your W-2 job and your real estate business, you're not going to get anywhere, right? If you can't influence people to invest with you, you're not going to get anywhere. So we work on all those things that are holding people back. That's really where the high performance coaching comes in. So I have a lot of clients that started out by wanting to be mentored, but then they stayed for the coaching because they not only improved their business lives, their personal lives, their energy, their health, and everything else. So that's really why I love the coaching side of it. And I'm sure you've had similar experiences yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely looking forward to getting onto that end, right? I mean, that's what's so special, I think, about this industry compared to some other industries that I've been in, especially I was in the public sector for a while as a licensed stockbroker. And it's very cutthroat, right? It's very, I'll teach you A and C, but not B. In this industry, it's a very abundant mindset. Everybody wants to help everybody, even as a new person, right? There are people who are even newer than me, and, I can help, especially with the podcast. I've been kind of coaching there as well. So it's really, really awesome to A, receive it, right? You get that encouragement, and then B, give it, right? And see that kind of proof of concept. So I really love it. And that's another thing that's so addicting about this industry, is that it seems like everyone you meet is just so excited and wants to help, or, at least connect you with someone at the very least. So I absolutely love that. So before we kind of wind down here, I want to get kind of pull out your muddy crystal ball here. What do you kind of see over the next 18 to 24 months? What are you telling some of your students in terms of, staying headstrong and persistent and kind of pushing through these times?
Yeah, I think, continue to share with your investors why it makes sense to invest now, right? Especially as some of these sellers who have been holding out that have to either sell, right? Because there's always going to be, refinances are coming up, or partnerships are breaking down, or people just want to get out of the business, right? So have patience. Eventually people will have to sell, right? So you can probably get some deals at a discount, but also share with your investors why it makes sense to invest right now. Yeah, it may not cash flow great for a year or two, but if you get it at a discount and you can refinance, right, why not get into the business? And I mean, I think that the Feds at some point will be forced to lower interest rates again, because I don't think we can afford it as a country to pay high interest rates. So we will have to do something. So hopefully they get inflation under control, and they'll start, dropping interest rates next year, and that will start helping us, right? But just, hey, if the numbers make sense, right? If you're paying, 5, 6, 7%, if the numbers make sense, still go forward with it. Because even when I started, I mean, not like these interest rates are outrageous compared to just 5 years ago, right? So it's just we all got spoiled. So, stay in the game, don't give up, don't sit on the sidelines, take action. I mean, that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. I love that. Appreciate that insight. Awesome. Well, let's jump here to the final 5. First question, best advice you've gotten from a mentor?
Ask the following question: who do you know that I should know?
I love that so much. That's awesome. So important, right? I mean, such a relationship-based industry we're in. What is it about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
So there's a couple of things, right? This has created a freedom that I have desired for a long period of my life, to actually serve, right? Serve the communities through improving properties, serve my investors through improving their financial situations, serve people through the coaching, and then also serve my own family. I'm from Denmark. I've been able to travel back there for weeks on end now compared to when I was a W-2 job. So it kind of is a holistic way of being able to give back in so many different ways.
That's awesome. I love that. Favorite non-real estate or investment related book?
I would say, if this counts, High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. It's a great book on mindset and personal growth and everything else. So
awesome. Put that on the list. High Performance Habits.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Awesome. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Just probably to be even more focused, like even more productive, full productivity, full attention all day long, right? I don't know if that's a superpower, but that would definitely help me.
That would definitely be a superpower for sure. I think human nature is to get distracted and or, need a change of environment at some point throughout the day. So I would agree with you there. Awesome. Last one. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more?
Yeah, so I'm kind of old school, right? My email is probably the best. Is my first name, Jens, Jens, at Open Doors with an S capital.com. So Jens at opendoorscapital.com. That's my best. And if anybody want to schedule a quick call to talk about investing or coaching, they can go to opendoorscapital.com/call and schedule a 20-minute free call with me.
Perfect. We'll link both those in the show notes to make it super easy. Jens, thanks so much for your time. This is absolutely awesome.
Thanks, Jonathan. I had a great time.
Absolutely. Thank you again for tuning in. Who do you know that wants more cash flow? Share this episode with them so you can grow your cash flow together. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you're subscribed on your platform of choice so you never miss a new episode. Go to KataniCapitalGroup.com to learn more.